I'm Peter Truckel. I'm from Bournemouth University. I specifically work in a bit of Bournemouth which is called the NCCA, which is the National Centre for Computer Animation. And this September we're 30 years old, which is quite an amazing thing. And I've got to be honest, I mean, I've only been there 8 years, but it was very, very forward-thinking of BU at the time, because there was no formal computer animation teaching anywhere in the UK back then. And they set up this centre, and 6 years ago we received the Queen's Award for teaching computer animation. So it's been a pretty good journey. And we do turn out amazing students who have amazing careers. We have a philosophy, which is science in the service of art. And this goes back to the fact that everything we do is digital. Everything is based on maths, so we're big on the STEAM agenda, but we also put art at the centre of all of that. And that's super critical, to have an understanding, to just realise why things are done the way they're done. And I actually teach the history of visual effects. And the history of visual effects is amazing. It goes all the way back to 1906, when Méliès made his first films. And the stuff he did then, which was basically magic tricks using a straightforward film camera, have become the bedrock of what happens now, except now it's all done digitally. But we still think the same way. And so the basis of visual effects and good computer animation is sort of problem solving, but it's all for me to do with the narrative. So it's telling a story that people buy into. And we do lots of great work with various mediums at the university. So I'm going to show you, I think, this comes up. This is what some of our students have done over the last, I'm going to guess, about 4 or 5 years. So. as I say, the STEAM agenda is at the heart of everything we do. And if you look at that, I mean, there's so much has gone into it, from maths and physics to colour theory to the language of film, cinematography, lighting. It's such a broad field now. But we turn out great students, and they've gone on to win these things. So, you know, it is hugely successful. And you know, the kids we turn out have fantastic careers. I come from a different generation. So I'll try and fill you in on my path. I did a higher diploma in creative photography. 1975 I started. I wanted to do film. I applied to the London College of Printing. That year, 3 people wanted to do film, so they scrapped the course. Every year now, the film course we run, the film course AUB runs, all the film courses in the UK are oversubscribed. It was a very, very different world back then. Obviously, it's pre-digital. So I went there to do film, but had to do photography, which I loved, but I stayed on to do a postgrad diploma in animation and film. And from that, I had a very, very conventional career. I became a rostrum camera operator, which is a person who puts animation cells on a table with a camera looking down at it. And it's like factory work, but there's an area of creativity in it where you know, you're in control of the camera movements and the pans and everything. So I love that. And I was really fortunate. In that first job, I'd been there a year, and I worked on a film called Blade Runner, which became like super successful. And because of that one moment, I was offered a job at a company called the Moving Picture Company, where I became a motion control camera operator. And that had a studio something like the size of this with a computer-controlled camera which moved in 3D space. It was the first one in the UK, and it was fantastic. A kid in a toy shop. I loved it. From there, I became a visual effects supervisor at MPC. Again, a very conventional role. And this was at the point when digital reared its head and everything started to change. And because I was in that company, which is now probably the biggest company in the world in terms of digital computer effects, I was at a time, you know, it was a time when people didn't know how to handle digital. No one knew. So advertising agencies would come to us and say, well, I got an idea, but we don't really know how to do it. And all of a sudden, I became a commercials director and had like a fantastic time for about 25 years and jetting all over the world doing lots of great stuff. But what happened with digital is that there was a democratization that ran through the industry. And pretty soon, Apple bought out these machines which do fantastic typography. Photoshop got great. Digital photography became something. And soon, everyone was able to do this stuff. So I had to stop doing what I loved and became a university academic, which again was a really nice way out. So I was able to pass on the knowledge I had, which most of it is still relevant. You know, the basic tenets of filmmaking, of understanding composition, photography, depth of field, they all carry weight in the digital world. So I'm just going to show you 3 little commercials that I did and explain a bit about them.
Little Johnny Rainbow, he's the ray of sunshine down our street. You can hear his laughter when they're chasing after happy little Johnny Rainbow. Swinging round the lamppost, round and round the lamppost, piggybacking up and down the street, just like Johnny Rainbow.
Anchor, that's real cream, folks.
Viva
So most of these ads were made 15 or more years ago. And back then, other than the normal film crew I had, which was a normal, probably anywhere from 20 to 40, 50 people, the post-production, the digital end of things, was done with an animator, a computer animator, and a compositor, and me. We'd sit in the studio for months putting this stuff together. But that's what it was. It was a very, very, very small team. Nowadays, the team has grown exponentially beyond recognition. So we have match movers, previs, R&D, effects, rendering. All these people are part of the pipeline. And they're not just them. There's juniors and leads. So it's huge, which does provide massive opportunities for students when they're moving on from graduating and moving into industry. But you do, I mean, I was just fortunate. I was very, very lucky to be in the right place at the right time and just move through that thing. I don't think I would survive in this world because I have a different background completely. But this is what we teach our students to go into and to understand. So some of them become super specialists. It's just quite mad. So that is what the industry looks like now in terms of visual effects. But 18 months ago, I was asked to give a talk in Malaysia, funnily enough, on augmented reality in education, which is, again, another big event. And at BU now, we're putting animation, simulation, and visualization at the heart of everything, across every faculty, from health to cybersecurity to business. It's just very much a part of the world we're living in. It sort of follows on from the government's industry strategy in that it's what we've got now. We don't have manufacturing. Everything else has gone. Digital is what we have, so we have to make the most of it. So we put it at the heart of everything. So I made this little film. It's just a load of little clips, but it sort of shows the state of the industry, I think. So all of that stuff is real, all of it, I've got to be honest, by now most of it's old hat. The world is moving on at a phenomenal rate. As it says here, technologies are blurring the lines between platforms. I mean, we teach animation and visual effects in games, but all of those skills are transferable. So we have graduates who move from working on movies to TV to games, and it's great for them, and I would thoroughly recommend it. I try to tell the students at the beginning of each year that during their careers, they'll be working with platforms which no one has even thought of yet. They'll be using softwares which no one's considered. They'll probably have 4 or 5 different jobs which are completely different and which do not exist at the moment and probably won't exist for another 10 or 15 years. It's going to be a very strange world. AI is going to become a huge player in that game, absolutely huge. And already we've seen it, and you know, there's the paranoia that comes with anything new. I mean, when the steam train came out, people thought you'd pass out if you went more than 23 miles an hour. Obviously, that isn't the case. And AI will be a force for good, I'm sure. Obviously, we've all seen Terminator, and you know, we know that there's a possibility something could go wrong. But honestly, you can't turn your back on it. You can't be a Luddite. You can't avoid it. We are all going to be affected by it. We're all going to be working with it, and especially the students of tomorrow. So AI will devise stories for us, which we will interact with, which will evolve as we're playing with them. And it won't just be, you know, gaming. It'll be education, it'll be healthcare. We're already doing a lot of stuff with dementia, working with AI and augmented and virtual realities. So there's so many wonderful, wonderful opportunities out there, but we will still need Peppa Pig and Fireman Sam. So there will still be a space for conventional digital content. It's just that it will find its way into every corner of our lives. It's just going to be part and parcel of it. You know, I mean, I dare say pretty much everyone here's got a smartphone at the moment. Several of you are probably tweeting. I mean, social media, everything. It's just the fabric of modern life, and it ain't going to go away. So thank you very much.